watching UBC TV, inspiring Uganda.
And a warm welcome back to Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, where we inspire Uganda. For those who are joining us from the Great East African region, those of you who are watching us all around Uganda, you're most welcome. We'll be taking you live shortly to the Kampala Serena Hotel, where, of course, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Maria Kiwanuka, shall read out the 2012-2013 annual budget at the Kampala Serena Hotel. And in attendance will, of course, be His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, honourable ministers, honourable MPs, and members of the diplomatic corps. And you can watch it live and free on this channel. Better still, you can also tune in to our local channel, that's Star TV, to have the proceedings translated in local vernacular. And of course on our various channels, radio channels, 8 to be precise, where we will have it being broadcast live to you in 27 languages of your choice. You're tuned into UBC, and thank you so much for the many questions over our Facebook page and on Twitter, and of course on our SMS line. But that's what we're seeing live. Let's go over live to the Kampala Serena Hotel, where His Excellency the President is, of course, there at the scene alongside all the necessary dignitaries. They, of course, are going to have the national anthem played, and he is, of course, going to take a look at the command that is there before him. You're tuned into UBC, and this is the annual national budget going to be read out on today, the 14th of June, 2012-2013. Like I told you concerning the procedure of the budget process, because many of you had asked how exactly is the budget process carried out. We will be continuing it. We will be, of course, talking more about it later on in this program. But what you're seeing right now is His Excellency the President, His Excellency the President about to do the needful. On that note, let's hand over to our commentator of the day, Mr. Andrew Patrick Luandaga, live at the Kampala Serena Hotel. Thank you so much for staying tuned to UBC and our various channels. We'll see you at the end.
Mheshimiwa Rais, kwa ndio mwisho ya kundi la heshima. Naomba kutoa kundi la heshima uwanjani, Mheshimiwa Rais.
Force after His Excellency the President had inspected the Guard of Honor and also received the presidential salute on this auspicious occasion of the presentation of the 2012-2013 budget speech to this August Assembly, the Parliament. You are tuned to Uganda Broadcasting Corporation TV, as well as Star TV, and all the audio channels, that is radio, the 7 FM stations of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation this afternoon, where the Finance Minister Honorable Maria Kiwanuka has already arrived and will be reading the budget for the year 2012-2013. When we go inside the plenary, inside Parliament, that is to say, we shall have the national anthem, 3 verses, followed by prayers, proclamation by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Madam Rebecca Kadaga Alitwala, with a communication from the chair. And the motion will be that Parliament do resolve itself into a committee of supply for consideration and approval of the revised revenue and expenditure estimates for the fiscal year 2011-2012 and the budgetary proposals for the estimates of revenue and expenditure of the fiscal year 2012-2013. That will be Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Maria Kiwanuka, to do the needful. That will be followed by an adjournment and then the national anthem. That, as far as business today is concerned. And of course, looking briefly into the budget, more Ugandans have speculated about the need to look into more the budget funding because at the start of September, a kilogram of sun-dried maize was going for 1,000 shillings, owing to the drought in the earlier parts of the year that had sent the price to the rafters from a paltry 300 shillings as supplies to the markets dwindled. His Excellency now will be proceeding to the VIP lounge where he will sign the Speaker's Parliamentary Visitors Book, and later on will be joining the plenary where you see the Right Honourable Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi conferring to an MP there, and also on your left there is left of the picture is Afande Moses Ali and other VIPs in Parliament this afternoon. My colleague for Kiswahili and Luganda is kama kawaida Muko Ismail Chigozi. Asante sana Ismail, endelea.
Asante na karibu. Ndugu mtazamaji wa UBC Star TV pamoja na mikondo mingine ya UBC, karibu. Mimi niko hapa katika Serena International Conference Center, yani ukumbi wa kimataifa, ili kukuelezea yanayojiri hapa kuhusu bajeti mpya ya taifa. Bajeti inaanzia kwa mfuko wako, kwa pato lako pamoja na hazina, yani treasury. Lakini treasury yako wewe, hazina yako mtu wa kawaida, ni jinsi unavyopokea pesa zako, na ni lazima uangalie utazitumia vipi. Basi unapovuka mpaka utaona tabu. Naona hapa Rais Museveni baada ya kuingia hapa anakaribishwa kwa shangwe na vigelegele katika siku hii ya kusoma bajeti ya taifa. Naam, bajeti yako ndio inakuambia. Waziri anayehusika na masuala ya fedha pamoja na mipango ya maendeleo ya taifa, Kiwanuka, ndiye atakayetusomea bajeti ya leo. Tuanze mwaka mpya wa makadirio. Makadirio au bajeti ni jambo la busara mno katika maisha yetu. Lakini siku hizi unatizama kwamba katika masoko yetu nyanya zinauzwa, nyama, sukari, sabuni na kadhalika, uto wa kupikia, lakini bei zikiwa ghali mno, watu hawawezi kujimudu. Mafuta ya petroli yamepandishwa kidogo siku hizi kwa sababu ni kati ya 3,550 hadi 3,700 kila lita. Dizeli ni 3,150 hadi 3,250 lita moja. Parafini au kerosini au mafuta ya taa kama ilivyokuwa kiitwa hapo zamani, shilingi 2,700 lita moja hadi shilingi 2,750. Bei za vyakula, mkungu wa ndizi 10,000 unapata hadi 30,000, yani enkota kwa lugha ya Kiganda. Na nyanya shilingi 500 pamoja na shilingi 2,000 hadi 2,000 katika kitita kimoja au kibaba. Namuona waziri anayehusika na mambo ya fedha, Kiwanuka au Kiwanuka, amejiandaa kabisa, anapekua katika makaratasi yake kutusomea bajeti mpya. Uganda ina mafuta, lakini labda baadaye tukianza kuyauza kwa ukamilifu tutapata nafuu kwa bei za mafuta kushuka kidogo, na hatimaye usafiri utakuwa umeshuka. Banafa batulaba ku UBC TV ni Star TV, tubaramusiza nnyo. Kigozi Ismail Gemanya, unakunulwa bajeti. Mu Luswahili mbadde nkugamba nti bajeti yembalirira, oyingiza otya, onofulumya otya. Tuleme okukozesa ssente nga twetumbula. Oyina emitwalo 2 oyagala ogimalewo olwaleero, enkyo onolyaki? Kana endiyeko mu Sheraton eyenkola gidibye, bw'obanga tomaleko wiiki namba ng'olya mu Sheraton. Bw'olaba Rwandaga nga asobola okulya mu Sheraton, leka kwetumbula. Tomanyi nyingizaayo, n'olwekyo genda mpolampola okusinziira ku nyingizaayo. Minister Kiwanuka tumulindirisa yonna nga yajja okukiikirira president ku nsonga ensonga neno nkulu kubanga nga bwe tuzze tulaba oluyimba lw'eggwanga ebitundu bisatu bijja kubeera nga bivugibwa bamanya bikubibwa wano tuzzeeko okusaba Speaker wa Parliament Rebecca Kadaga kubanga yatukkiriza okutuula wano era yakkiriza nti Parliament tuli wafunda tudde mu Serena obuvunaanyizibwa bwe bumu ku bwo ayanjula ekiteeso kakati awo tulyoke tulabe ebinaddirira nga tulaba embalirira y'omwaka guno omupya teweebuuza lwaki tuli mu Juni ate tubala embalirira y'omwaka nedda embalirira omwaka gwo kisinzira nga bw'onogamba bw'oba wazaalibwa May 15 nganze entandikwa y'omwaka gwawo etandikira n'olwekyo ebyembalirira tetulinda eri mu Desemba n'olwekyo embalirira oba bajeti kyekyo bajeti kitegeeza ennyingiza ensaasaanya n'ekyo ky'osuubira okufuna n'ekyonoosaasaanya oyinza okuba nga weemalirira self sustaining oba oyinza okuba nga oyambibwako n'olwekyo eyo yembalirira n'ekibi nnyo era kiswaza okufulumya ssente z'otolina oyinza okuyingiramu engalo empanvu n'olwekyo tukyewale mubamu ku bali wano minisita w'ensonga z'ebyobusuubuzi omulaba omukyalo oyo wa kitiibwa akati meya niwe wali wuno Lukwago Elias n'abagenyi abalala nga bw'ozza obalaba ekituleese wano kutunuulira mbalirira eryetya bajeti kyatwakigandawaza n'olwekyo saagala ogaye nti kakati ate bajeti eneeba etya obutafaanaganako naye mabega eri ennaku zino abantu tebakyakweka bintu sukaali katumukweke era wewe bajeti weneggwera nga tufunamu ebyo byaggwa kati gwe bw'okweka ebintu byo bikudibako bikweke kati onookweka sabbuuni abule sukaali anaabula sente ze zikusalako n'olwekyo tutunuulire ennyingiza yaffe okusinga nga tetunnapaala na bintu birala bw'oba tosobola kunywa soda buli lunaku soda muleke nywa kyayo mukalu bw'aba talimu sukaali nga gw'osobola leka genda kubba teweetumbula mu Luswayiri kankulamusi nate nti karibu tena ndugu mtazamaji wa UBC na Star TV pamoja na mikondo mingine. Miongoni mwa wageni unaowaona hapa ni waziri wa ulinzi Crispus Kionga pamoja na waziri wa sheria na waheshimiwa wengine ambao tupo nao hapa, na waziri mkuu Patrick Amama Mbabazi naye nimemuona hapa pamoja na Speaker Rebecca Kadaga aliyemkaribisha rais katika gwaride la heshima lililoundwa na polisi. Alipowasili rais alikaribishwa na Speaker akakagua magwaride lililoundwa na mapolisi kama mlivyoona na mambo kadha wa kadha. Bajeti inaanzia kwa fuko lako kama kawaida. Usipokuwa na fedha za kutumia huwezi kuzitumia hizo pesa ila tu kama unatafuta mengine. Na katika pilika za kutafuta fedha unaweza kupokea mkopo, yani unapata loni kutoka kwa benki, lakini mkopo huo lazima utumie kwa lile lengo kuu ulokusudia. Naam, waziri mhusika ni Maria Kiwanuka ambaye atasoma bajeti ya leo kwa niaba ya Rais Yower Museveni. Kwa hivyo tukisubiri wakati wowote, je, mafuta yatapandishwa bei, yatashushwa bei, bei za vyakula na bidhaa zingine za lazima zitadhibitiwa? Kumbuka mwaka jana mambo ya kodi kwa maji yaliondolewa, na kodi kwa maji hizo ziliondolewa, lakini watu walibaki wakiuza maji kwa bei ghali mno. Namuona Minister Museveni amewasili hapa kwenye ukumbi huu wa kimataifa akiandamana na Rais Yower Museveni mwenyewe. Naam, sekta muhimu zipo, kwa mfano usafiri, afya, usalama na ulinzi, kilimo, mawasiliano na teknolojia ya mawasiliano ICT au teknohama. Hizo ni sekta muhimu ambazo lazima tuzitegemee. Tuko wapi? Tuko Serena International Conference Center kusubiri waziri anayehusika na mambo ya fedha atatuambia nini. Kadaga Patrick, uwanja ni wako.
Asante sana Ismail Kigozi. Well, viewers, we are here at the Serena International Conference Center, where shortly the congregation will resolve itself into a committee of supply for consideration and approval of the revised revenue and expenditure estimates for the year 2011-2012. As in the background you can see His Excellency the President being led in by the Sergeant at Arms of Parliament, Ahmed Kagoye, as well as the Speaker and Deputy Speaker, with the President, who has just signed the Speaker's Parliamentary Visitors Book ahead of this important occasion when all the East African countries, including Kenya, our brothers and sisters who lost very important people in an air crash, also be reading the budget today. Shortly we shall be having the national anthem, 3 verses, followed by the prayers and then the proclamation by the Honorable Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, Rebecca Kadaga.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed officers of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with their abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to their church. Amen.
Item 3, proclamation by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament of Uganda.
Whereas under Article 95(2), whereas under Article 95(2) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, a session of Parliament shall be held at such place within Uganda and shall commence at such time as the Speaker may by proclamation appoint, and whereas the President of the Republic of Uganda is required under Article 155, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution to prepare and lay before Parliament in each financial year, but in any case, not later than the 15th day before the commencement of the financial year, estimates of revenues and expenditure of the government for the next financial year. Cognizant of the fact that the financial year 2011-2012 will end on the 30th day of June 2012, aware that it is expedient that the President raise before Parliament the estimates of revenue and expenditure of government for the financial year 2012-2013 at the Kampala Serena Conference Center. Now, therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred upon the Speaker by Article 95, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, I hereby proclaim that Parliament shall sit at the Kampala Serena Conference Center on the 14th day of June 2012 at 1400 hours to receive the estimates of revenue and expenditure of government for the financial year 2012-2013. And further, in exercise of the powers conferred upon the Speaker by the Constitution and the Parliament, Powers and Privileges Act, Cap 258, and the Rules of Procedure of the Parliament of Uganda, it is hereby proclaimed and declared that the said Kampala Serena Conference Center, including its forecourt, the yard, and the gardens, with the presence of Parliament for the above-mentioned purposes, given under my hand at Parliament House, Kampala, on the 18th day of May 2012, Rebecca Kadaga, Speaker of Parliament. Your Excellency, the President and Mrs. Museveni, Your Excellency, the Vice President, my Lord the Chief Justice, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Margaret Ziwa, Speaker of East Africa Legislative Assembly, Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of Parliament, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the sitting of Parliament, at which I expect His Excellency the President to cause to be presented to Parliament estimates of revenue and expenditure of government for the next financial year, as provided for under Article 155(1) of the Constitution. This is a very important duty, as it puts into figures the aspirations of government as enumerated in the State of the Nation Address, which we eagerly await to hear. However, Your Excellency and the distinguished members here, I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that this month of June has been particularly tragic on the African continent, where we have experienced 2 aviation accidents, one in the Federal Republic of Nigeria on 2nd June 2012, in which over 157 persons died, and another one in the neighborhood in the Republic of Kenya on the 10th of June, where the Minister for Internal Security and his assistant, i.e. Professor George Saitoti and Mr. Ojede and their staff, perished in a helicopter accident in the Ngong Hills. I take opportunity to convey our heartfelt condolences on behalf of Parliament to the families of the deceased and to the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the government of the Republic of Kenya. And in that regard, may I request that we all stand up and observe a minute of silence in their memory. Your Excellency and distinguished guests and members of Parliament, as I indicated to you earlier, Right Honorable Margaret Ziwa is present today. This is her first official function as the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly. We welcome her and wish her a successful tenure. On parliamentary business, I am aware that some members have not returned the forms indicating their choices of committees on which they wish to serve during the second session. I would urge you to do that as soon as possible. This will enable the clerk to prepare and present policy statements to the relevant committees once they are fully constituted. Your Excellency, I now believe that members and invited guests are anxiously waiting to hear what you, through the Minister of Finance and Planning, have to present to the country. Minister of Finance.
Itself into a committee of supply for consideration and approval of number 1, the revised revenue and expenditure estimates for the fiscal year 2011-2012, and number 2, the budgetary proposals for the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the fiscal year 2012-2013.
Your Excellency the President, Mrs. Museveni, Your Excellency the Vice President, the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament, His Lordship the Chief Justice, the Right Honourable Margaret Ziwa, Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, Right Honourable Ministers, Honourable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Madam Speaker, in fulfillment of Article 155(1) of the Constitution, I beg to move that Parliament resolves itself into a committee of supply for consideration of the revised revenue and expenditure estimates for the financial year 2011-2012 and proposals for the estimate of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2012-2013. Madam Speaker, Article 155(1) of the Constitution provides that the President shall cause to be prepared and laid before Parliament estimates of revenue and expenditure for each financial year. I am accordingly performing this duty on behalf of the President, for which I'm thankful. Madam Speaker, the Budget Act 2001 requires that the national budget is prepared following comprehensive consultations with stakeholders, which obligation I have fulfilled. Madam Speaker, in the State of the Nation address a week ago, His Excellency the President discussed the National Resistance Movement government's vision for the future of this country and clearly laid out the challenges to development that we face today. In addressing these challenges and in support of the President's vision, the theme for the budget for next financial year is Priorities for Renewed Economic Growth and Development. Madam Speaker, last October 2011, I stood before this august House and asked for your support, that of Parliament and that of the Ugandan people, as we tackled the challenges facing us. I wish to thank you and the people of Uganda for the support government received when we had to implement strict measures to combat a series of economic shocks. These strict measures included tightening both fiscal and monetary policy. I'm happy to report that inflation is now easing and the exchange rate of the Uganda shilling is stabilizing. Economic performance. Madam Speaker, the key macroeconomic and sector developments over the last year are elaborated in the background to the budget 2012-13. I will therefore first highlight the performance of the economy over the last year. This serves as a backdrop to the key challenges, budget strategy, and priorities for renewed growth and economic development in the next financial year. Fiscal policy will support monetary policy to maintain macroeconomic stability, while at the same time increase resources available to address the binding constraints to economic growth and development. Madam Speaker, Uganda has faced both global and domestic economic challenges over the last year. Real GDP growth is estimated at 3.2% this financial year. However, there are signs that the economy is turning around, but requires addressing the challenges on the supply side of the economy. This involves budget prioritization, improving value for money services, and better coordination across sectors and across government. Given Uganda's population growth rate of 3.5% per annum, it is imperative that we quickly return to faster and more inclusive and sustainable economic growth and development. The slowdown in growth this financial year was due to drought, weaker demand for our exports from traditional markets, high international fuel prices, and imported inflation from trading partners, coupled with a weak shilling due to a strong dollar globally. Growth in the services sector slowed to 3.1%, with trade, financial, education, and health services sectors registering negative annual growth rates. The growth in industrial production slowed to 1.1% during the year. The hardest hit subsector was formal manufacturing, where growth contracted by 4.4%. Madam Speaker, I am happy to report that the agricultural sector has performed much better this year, recording annual growth of 3.0% this year. This shows that agriculture can perform well given our climatic advantage. The performance of the agriculture sector has been spurred by increased cash and food crop production following favorable rains in the first planting season of this last year. The hotel and restaurant subsector also rebounded, together with positive growth rates in transport and telecommunications, real estate activities, and other business activities, as His Excellency the President highlighted in the State of the Nation address. Madam Speaker, the Uganda shilling depreciated against major international currencies earlier in the financial year just ending. The Uganda shilling, however, has recently been more stable. Depreciation of the shilling was a consequence of the widening balance of trade as imports continue to grow much faster than exports. Export of goods and services during the year totaled US dollars 4.1 billion compared to imports of goods which amounted to US dollars 5.3 billion. In addition, service payments were recorded at US dollars 2.23 billion. However, the overall balance of payments was positive on account of increased inflows of remittances amounting to US dollars 2 billion, foreign direct investments amounting to US dollars 834 million, and portfolio flows of US dollars 274 million. We must therefore concentrate on export growth in order to reduce the gap between imports and exports, which has been widening over the past years. This will entail increased production and export of staple food crops to the region, encouragement of agro-processing value addition activities, and by shifting expenditures from imports to locally manufactured goods where this is feasible. Staple food crops as exports have a sure regional market because basic food crops have a high price elasticity of demand and have lower transport costs in view of our neighbors' proximity in the East African region. Inflation and interest rates. Madam Speaker, the economy has faced high inflation with prices rising over the early part of the financial year now ending. However, inflation is now receding. Annual inflation peaked at 30.5% in October 2011, but has now declined to 18.6% in May 2012. Food crop inflation, that was 42.2% in May 2011, has declined to 8% in May 2012. In order to achieve this, the Bank of Uganda has had to pursue a tight monetary policy using the central bank rate that led to a raise in interest rates. The central bank rate will be further eased as conditions improve. Tight monetary policy has succeeded in bringing down general price levels and has improved macroeconomic stability. Supply side, or fiscal policy and demand management or monetary policy are not alternatives. They complement each other and both are necessary for sound economic management. Tackling inflation remains the government's overriding macroeconomic objective in order to protect macroeconomic stability. The government will continue to work together with the Bank of Uganda to this purpose. Financial sector developments. Madam Speaker, new technology is driving our efforts to improve financial inclusion, especially in the area of electronic money transfer and agency banking. The necessary amendment to financial sector legislation to accommodate alternative banking approaches such as mobile banking, bank assurance, and Islamic banking are being undertaken. The Bank of Uganda has licensed 4 mobile money network operators to offer mobile money services as a means of bringing about greater financial inclusion with the move to branchless banking across the country. By February 2012, the operators, the mobile bank operators, had registered 2 million mobile money clients and 13.2 million transactions worth Uganda shillings 551 billion had been processed between January and March of this year. In addition, consumer protection guidelines were issued by the Bank of Uganda and are now part of the regulatory regime of all financial institutions. A significant development in financial inclusion in 2011 was a 60% increase in agricultural lending by commercial banks and other financial institutions. This lending went towards financing post-harvest activity and the purchase of equipment using the Agricultural Credit Facility. Government will continue to implement positive interventions to increase agriculture lending through the banking system, including the Uganda Development Bank. Madam Speaker, government has undertaken reform of the pension sector with the view to increasing private savings, which can be leveraged to finance domestic investment on a sustainable basis. In this regard, legislation to provide oversight and regulation of the pension sector became effective in September 2011. The Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority will be established in this coming financial year. Pension reform, when completed, will be a key element on the development of our domestic debt market.